We're so delighted, Dr. Newell, that you're here with your daughters who are here. Dr. Glenda Newell Harris, if you would wave your hands. She left you, I think. and her husband, Attorney Bob Harris, is here as well. There he is, right there. There they are. And then her other daughter, Dr. Virginia Banks. Right there. We're delighted to have you here. We'll have a number of other guests speaking. I believe we have with us tonight the new minister at First Baptist Church, which is Miss Newell's church, Reverend Paul Ford. Is Reverend here? Somebody said he had a service tonight. I think he said it was there. We're delighted to be here. We're going to have a brief ceremony here in the committee room, and then we're going to move into the council chamber for some additional presentations. But we've invited some people to come and share some memories of Dr. Newell and the various aspects of her life. We're going to start out with our former mayor, Martha Wood, who's going to talk a little bit about the interactions with that city board of aldermen in those days. She's going to be followed by Janet Wheeler. Janet worked with Ms. Newell and others on a number of Phi Omega projects. It'll be interesting to hear. And then Chancellor Elwood Robinson, our wonderful chancellor from Winston-Salem State University, is going to speak a little bit about Dr. Newell's role there. And then Evelyn Acree with Mechanics and Farmers Bank. And of course, we know Mrs. Newell played a key role in helping to get that bank here. Then we're going to show a little video. Well, let's get up through Evelyn, then we'll talk about that. So I'm going to call on Mayor Martha Wood.
My dear friend, Virginia Kimbrough Newell, if you only knew how thrilled I am to participate in this centennial celebration. Finally, I can let this cat out of the bag. I promise you, VK, I will endeavor to be discreet. When we met in the early 70s as members of the American Association of University Women, Virginia and I quickly formed a bond of common interests, outlook, and conviction. In the almost 50 years since, can you believe that, VK? That bond has grown deeper and broader through our shared experiences of friendship, collegiality, and sisterhood. It has been a profound privilege to see Virginia experience the utmost joy, such as at Glenda's wedding, at the news of the birth of each of her grandchildren, word of a former student's success, or an accomplishment of one of her grands, and they have been many. I have also seen Virginia in deepest sorrow as she lovingly and tenderly granted her beloved George leave from this world. It has been pure joy to hear her regale us with stories from her childhood, talking about her mom and daddy out in the country, the early days of her marriage to George and rearing her daughters, Dee and Glenda, and her teaching experiences. However, my friends, if you want to laugh heartily till you beg to stop, ask me about walking down Bourbon Street in New Orleans with Virginia Newell at midnight. Mayor Corpening tried his best to keep us from doing it. I'll skip the details, Virginia, for this decorous occasion. But we'll summarize by reporting that having kept VK from entering at least a half a dozen peep shows, the rest of the evening we spent listening to jazz musicians at Preservation Hall. It's an experience engraved in my most precious VK memories. When I considered running for the Northwest Ward seat and later for mayor, Virginia became my trusted mentor and counselor, a wise one. With VK Newell, what you see is what you get. She is authentically, unabashedly, and unselfishly committed to making our community and our world a better place for all people. With honesty, integrity, and zest, she will do her dead level best toward that end. Virginia, what brings me the most pride and joy tonight is not just the opportunity to celebrate your 100th birthday and what you mean to Frank and me, but the legacy of love and friendship, leadership, and courage you have bequeathed to our children and to all the children in this community and across the state. Today, I found this prayer. It just happened there, and it sounded like you to me. And I think it's one that we can all afford to pray. It's a Hebridean prayer, and we don't know who wrote it, but it says, "Oh Jesus, be the canoe that holds me in the sea of life. Be the steer that keeps me straight. Be the outrigger that supports me in times of great temptation. Let your spirit be my sail that carries me through each day. Keep my body strong so that I can paddle steadfastly on in the long voyage of life." What a gift you have given us with your life, your love, and your beautiful legacy. Thank you, Virginia.
Good afternoon. I am Janet Wheeler, president of Phi Omega Incorporated, and I bring you greetings on behalf of the ladies of Phi Omega Inc., who are all members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and we're the owners and developers of Ivy Arms apartment complex. You see these lovely ladies sitting here. Many of them are part of Phi Omega Inc., and I know Virginia is delighted that you are here to support her, not only for Phi Omega Inc., but just for our chapter in general. I want to share our perspective regarding Dr. Sarah Virginia Newell's role in the beginning and the continued existence of Ivy Arms apartment complex. I'll start with this story. In 1986, at that time, I happened to be the local chapter president, and I hosted a fair at my home that included all former presidents, Dr. Virginia Newell being one of them, and the officers, and the meeting was called to get insight from others on how to make us more effective. Well, little did I know that out of that meeting would be the birth of Phi Omega Incorporated, which ultimately led to the building of Ivy Arms Apartments and Community Center. And, of course, leading the conversation and leading the charge was none other than who? Virginia Newell. She was the catalyst, the vision was born, and with lots of hard work, determination, perseverance, the dream became a reality 5 years later. Here's what the current officers of Phi Omega Inc. have to say about Dr. Newell's influence in this great project. Our treasurer, Sarah Brenda Hodge, says, "When I reflect on Ivy Arms and Dr. Newell, VK as we fondly call her, she had the vision, determination, connections, and the spark that kept us energized. She was truly committed to both phases of the project." Our secretary, Sarah Lynette Hawkins, says, "Sarah Virginia provided tremendous insight and vision for Ivy Arms project. Her ability to connect the business community and the sorority to speak the same language demonstrated how flexible she was in communicating with diverse individuals. I personally salute her for all her vision." Our corresponding secretary, Sarah Alma Flood, says, "Sarah Virginia is a visionary, and because of her vision, compassion, and persistence, East Winston-Salem has nice, affordable housing." And finally, our financial secretary, Sarah Annette Wilson, says, "Virginia is a true visionary. She saw beyond our desire for a meeting place because initially we were in the search for a sorority house. Her idea for an affordable housing complex with a clubhouse fulfilled the needs of the community and the sorority. It was not easy getting others to share the enthusiasm for this massive project, but as a wise, determined, and highly intelligent woman, she was able to help us overcome the obstacles and the financial hurdles. She is the epitome of commitment to all mankind in service." In summary, Dr. Newell was instrumental in developing Ivy Arms apartment complex, which consists of Phase 1, completed in 1991, and Phase 2, completed in 1995, resulting in 44 affordable apartments and a community center. And to top all of that off, at age 100 years old, Dr. Newell still serves as the vice president of Phi Omega Incorporated. So, of course, you heard from all of the other officers, Sarah Virginia, but Virginia is still active in that role, and we are afraid to have a meeting because we'll be building again. What a woman. All the Sarahs of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority sincerely thank you, Dr. Virginia Newell, for your immeasurable contributions to our sorority overall, to, of course, this project, and to many other organizations, and to this community as a whole. You are truly our role model, and we thank you. And now I'd like for our bachelors of our local chapter to come forward to present something to you.
That's my sister.
That is your sister and your daughter, and you've got a lot of sisters and daughters here.
Good evening. Sarah Newell, as we celebrate your 100th birthday, we also celebrate another milestone with Sarah Newell. In our organization, we have what's called Jewels. And Jewels are members and individuals who have served a number of years in our sorority in service to all mankind. So our first level is 25 years, which are our Silver Stars, and we have a good many of those young ladies in here tonight. The next level is our Golden Sorors, which is 50 years of service. Now, not too many of us get to this next level, which is Diamond, and that is 75 years of service to our sorority. And Sarah, Dr. Newell has served over 75 years in our sorority. We kind of missed that with her, but she has served, if I'm not mistaken, 78 years of service to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And so tonight, we have a small token for you, along with an invitation for you to attend the 65th Mid-Atlantic Regional Conference in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the Jewels Luncheon so that you can strut the pink and green carpet and be recognized as a Diamond Soror. So there's a letter in here with that information for you to read over that and then let us know if you're going to go with us to Charlotte, North Carolina in April of 2018 as we recognize you for 75 plus years of service in Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Good evening. Dr. Newell, on behalf of the 27,000 WSSU alums, currently over 5,000 students, 1,100 faculty, staff, and administrators, I'm delighted to stand here and bring greetings on behalf of the university and also on behalf of the 13 chancellors of Winston-Salem State University, of which you knew all 13. I'm honored, I'm moved to be here this evening. I had the great opportunity to have dinner with Dr. Newell about a month ago, and what a pleasure that was, as she took me down memory lane at Winston-Salem State University, as she took me down memory lane of her life. And it was truly inspiring. And I left that dinner on cloud nine because of all the jewels of information that you gave me. And I left thinking, I wish that our students could have been at that table listening to you, talking about what it means to be a scholar. You were a mathematician and you understood math, but you talked about what it was like going to college. And so as I listened to the former mayor talking about Bourbon Street and you possibly going into one of those shows, that's not what you told me about your life on college campus. You told me you didn't even hold hands with a young man. That you were serious about your studies. You didn't understand why they were playing cards. You didn't have any time for that. That you were a serious student. And we certainly, we really believe that. But we think about Winston-Salem State University, 125 years, and we think about what that institution has meant for this community, and we think about where it is today. I dare say it would not be where it is today without you, without your leadership, with what you have done at that university in terms of the math department, in terms of computers and computer science. That university is where it is because of you. And we come here tonight to celebrate 100 years. And the university sent a proclamation a while back honoring your 100th birthday. And they sent me here tonight with a gift that we want to give it to you. And we'll have to open this gift up because it's a very special gift.
Good evening. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure for me to be here with you tonight to celebrate our icon, our trailblazer, our not-so-hidden figure, Dr. Virginia K. Newell. I came to thank you, Dr. Newell, for being a force in this community, being persistent and an inspiration to all who know you. Thank you for being so forward-thinking, and you have always been light years ahead of your time. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. I am a senior vice president with Mechanics and Farmers Bank. I have made my career at Mechanics and Farmers Bank. It is the bank that Dr. Newell worked so hard to bring to Winston-Salem. She and her husband knew in the 70s that the only way a community could be viable is to have economic development. She worked hard to bring a shopping center. She worked tirelessly to bring the bank. She formed a committee, and that committee went to several institutions, and she asked them, bring a branch to the East Winston community. And from what I understand, they all said no. But if you know Dr. Newell and how persistent she is, you know that she does not take no for an answer. And I was just thinking, I said, I bet Dr. Newell said, okay, I gave y'all the opportunity. You said no, but I'm going somewhere and I'm gonna get a yes. And she did just that. She and her committee traveled to Durham on several occasions, met with the president, Mr. Joe Sansom of Mechanics and Farmers Bank in the corporate headquarters. They met several times. They made presentations. She persuaded them to come to Winston-Salem. But see, what a lot of people don't know is Dr. Newell knew Mr. Sansom. They were good friends, her family, his family. He trusted her. He respected her. He admired her. And he knew that if she said he needed to be in Winston-Salem, Mechanics and Farmers Bank needed to be in Winston-Salem. So on this day, it's because of your tenacity that Winston-Salem has had Mechanics and Farmers Bank for 36 years. It wasn't easy, and even after they said yes, I understand there were really a lot of roadblocks and hurdles and all of that they had to jump through. I talked to Mr. C.P. Booker, one of your committee members, and I said, what was the mood like at that time? I said, what were y'all thinking? And he said, well, you know, there were some folks that didn't want M&F in Winston-Salem. I said, did you think about giving up? Because I heard there was a block. They tried to block the bank, I understand. And they said, giving up with Dr. Newell? Are you crazy? He said she was the force, and she made sure that we continued with that journey to bring the bank here. Now, on a personal note, my mother told me one day to get in the car. I was 14 years old, Dr. Newell. She so admired you. She told me to get in the car. I said, oh, we going shopping? Or we going out to eat? She drove me over to where Mechanics and Farmers Bank is today. The construction hadn't even started. It was just an empty lot. It was a fall day. It was a blustery day. We got out of the car. She said, look, this is what hard work and determination will get you. She said, Dr. Newell and her committee strive to bring a bank, which this community so richly deserved, to East Winston. She said, you can do anything you want to do with hard work and determination. Now, I know that was a special moment for my mother. I was 14. And I was thinking, why in the world she got me out here in this cold, looking at this empty lot? Little did I know I was looking at my future. Thank you, Dr. Newell, for being a trailblazer, for being persistent, for having tenacity, for not taking no for an answer. To have the dream to even dare to run and win and become one of the first African-American females on the Board of Aldermen. Thank you for that. Thank you for blazing the trail for so many of us, including me. On behalf of our president, Mr. Jim Seals, our board of directors, and I see one of our city advisory board members, our former mayor, Martha Woods, we want to thank you for all that you have meant to Mechanics and Farmers Bank, to Winston-Salem, and the East Winston community. We have a little token of appreciation, and we hope that you will enjoy it, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Evelyn, and all of those of you who shared stories, great stories that we've heard about Virginia Newell. We've been joined by our Mayor Pro Tem, Vivian Burke, that's here, and some other folks I need to recognize. A former Alderman, Larry Little, here. He came on the board in 1977 with Ms. Newell, as did Larry Womble in 1977 as well. 81. We have former council member Evelyn Terry, who is here, is now our state representative. Senator Paul Lowe is sitting around there. He's over here chatting to the mayor. We'll hear from him in just a little bit. And I also want to say that Reverend Ford was able to join us. Reverend, we're glad to have you here. Reverend Ford's about 3 weeks into the city, so we're delighted to have you. So we were thinking, how do you take 100 years of service and knowledge and not let it get away from us? So what we decided to do was to do a video of Virginia Newell being interviewed and telling her story. So we're going to see that right now, hopefully.
I was in a family of 9 in Advance, and the little neck of the woods where I was born, we kept it from being a ghetto because there were just 2 black families in that area. And when the school bus came by, they didn't pick us up. They just picked up the white kids. So we had to walk about 4 or 5 miles to school. And the fact that it was not accredited, my daddy wanted us to go away to college. And so he asked his aunt if we could live with her, and we did, 2 of us. No black high school at that time was accredited even, but it was approved. It was approved so that I could go to a good school. And I wanted to go to a school where I could go into mathematics or chemistry or physics or something of that kind, because that was my interest. I guess it's in my DNA. It's the only thing that I loved. I just love math, and I just do math for fun. It's challenging, and you can always be sure that you have the right answer because you can prove it. I was in civil rights a lot in Raleigh. I was in Raleigh at that time, and I guess my house was the command post. I had gone to University of Chicago for a year on a NSF fellow, and the students in the north came south to work on voter registration. And when I heard that 3 kids were from University of Chicago, I said, oh my God, let them come to my house. And they loved it. I had a basement, a full basement, and they all slept in the basement. And we took the telephone books and just tore them up, and all day we would work on getting telephone numbers to call people to come that we were going to have our march. So I was very much involved in it. Glenda was, my youngest daughter, was the head of the line there in Raleigh, and I was at the back, and my middle daughter was somewhere in the middle. Well, we were called back to Winston-Salem to work at Winston-Salem State, When I was at Adkins, I took biology under George Newell. Had no idea that I would come back and teach and marry George. So he and I got married, and they liked George a lot in Winston-Salem. They knew him, and they needed a science teacher, and they needed a dean of men. So he was called to come back. And of course I wanted to, because at that time, my parents had passed away, I think. Yeah, they had. But I still wanted to come back because this was home for me. My first effort in office was in Raleigh. I ran for the school board, almost made it and didn't. Then my husband ran for the school board twice, but it was here that there was a need for the Board of Aldermen. I was real concerned because I didn't have a market in this area. And when we got up to get bread, a loaf of bread, it's just as simple. We would have to go 4 and 5 miles to go get a loaf of bread. And I knew that that was one thing. The other thing that I felt was not right, it was dirty and filthy. And I felt that we should clean up East Winston. I used that. I used Ivory soap, and I gave that a little bitty bar. Let's clean it up. When the people came by this house to ask me to go in the office, I always had to get support from my husband. And I think he was in bed at that time, because he would go to bed about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And I asked him to get up and come and listen. And he sat there and listened. He said, I think it's a great idea. And went on back to bed. Ivy Arms came about. I belonged to a sorority, as a lot of women do. One of the sorority members came by and says, Virginia, what is that property over there doing? Vacant. They had some surplus property that they knocked down, old, dilapidated housing. So she said, well, why don't we start a housing unit? We had to have a nonprofit organization to do it, because the sorority could not borrow money. So we did. We formed Ivy Arms, Inc. And we went to after we got someone to do it, and by the way, the banks didn't want to do it. One man came out, and I've forgotten the bank. He came out, I was on the board, arts board. And he came out and he said, Virginia, I understand you need some money for some housing. I looked around, I said, did God tell you that? And he laughed, he said, I said, well, I do. I've been looking and we've been turned down. And he said, I want to see what I can do about it. I said, well, evidently you have money. And surely enough, that man said that he got 2 young people and put them in a room and said, you go in there and take that proposal and let's fund it. And that's how Ivy Arms got there. Best Choice, really, I didn't start it. I'll have to admit that. George Sweat, the chief of police, identified 100 kids who were at risk of being drug users, dealers, addicts, whatever you call it. And he came to the city and said, I found these young people and I want to help them. I was sitting on the board and I said, Mr. Chief, where did you get those kids? He said, East Winston. And I put my hand on my chest. My kids? He said, yes. I said, well, may I have those kids so that I can help them by love? I had no money, no funds, no place, no any place. And so I had to get out and ask. But the people were wonderful. Everybody that I asked helped. Ivy Arms and Best Choice were the city and the community coming together. To me, going into office is great if you have the right attitude. But if you forget the people, I had 17,000 people, I think, that I was representing. And I tried to represent them all, the young, the old. I didn't go in office to get money or to be rich. I went in office to give a service. And it is in office where you can give that service.
So, Ms. Newell, we've always got copies of this video for yourself and for your two daughters. But we felt like that this video needed to be someplace that future generations can see it as well. So Milton Rhoads is the interim director of the new Winston Museum. I'm going to present a copy of this to Milton, and Milton's going to make sure it's part of the archives there at the museum that can be enjoyed and learned from by future generations. So Milton.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. I knew it was time, upon reflection, that Virginia was going to teach us a lot of lessons back in the 70s. And Larry and others in town were great teachers of those of us in our 20s and 30s. And I got here very early in my career and just loved Virginia. She helped me with Carolina street scene. She helped me with urban arts. She helped me with grant giving and raising money. She was a master in all of this. But because I know her fairly well, I had to go to one of my favorite friends in the AKAs, Gloria Diggs Banks, and ask if she really was 100. And Gloria said to me, my sister was 100 and Virginia was her age. So I found out I didn't have to go your birth certificate because you are still gorgeous. You really are, and we can't use those words today for women, but I'm telling you, you are a gorgeous woman. So the New Winston Museum, where Gloria Diggs Banks, Billy Rich, Linda Dark, Lester Davis, and others work daily in the office next to me. For 5 years, they've been there with the museum. And our museum is 1849 to the present. And there is a collection that is being developed, and this will go in that collection. And we will cherish that as we go through the next century, which is going to be a very interesting time in this country. So we thank you, we love you, and God bless you in your next phase.
Still, here's your copy of the video. So we're about to wrap up this portion of the ceremony. We're going to be adjourning into the council chamber because we do have a council meeting, but before the council meeting, we're going to have some other honorariums there. As you, I wanted to thank Linda Barnes, who's my assistant, sitting over here. She helped pull all this together. On the way out, we're going to give everybody a coin with Mrs. Newell's picture and a little story in the back. This is kind of a blow-up of what it looks like, but as a commemorative, so that everyone can keep this as a memory of today. So, Ms. Newell, thank you for being a part of this. We're going to give you a chance to speak in the council chamber in just a little bit. So everyone, we've got about 10 minutes. We'll convene over there. So mingle a little bit. We'll see you in the council chamber.